our last video, we talked about how to do the reverse applique method with having those cute little woodland animals on the front of the egg. So we have the chocolate bunny and we have the cute little chick and the furry little bunny. But notice they are all resting on the outside of the eggs. This time, and in this video, we're going to talk about this a little bit differently. The reverse applique is done in the same manner. However, the little animals are on the inside of the egg. So the reverse applique is inside the window rather than outside the window. Pretty cute, huh? On this video, we're going to talk about Chick 2. And if you're following along in the instruction book, it's found on page 21. The first thing that you're going to want to do is hoop a piece of cutaway stabilizer in the 4x4 hoop. The first part of this lesson is that we will actually create the background of the egg, which is basically the chick itself. You'll notice that there are no background quilting instructions done on the chick itself. The background quilting is reserved for when it comes time to do around the outside of the egg, not the inside. The file that we'll want to pull up on our embroidery machine is the 4x4 Chick 2 Part A. And this time, again, we're not adding embroidery background quilting, and so we can just go ahead and hit embroidery and get started right away. I'm going to go ahead and put the hoop into the machine. And the first stitch that's going to take place is the outline stitch. This is the placement for my background fabric. The background fabric I'll be using is this sweet little white background with the tiny dainty flowers. And I have definitely used Kimberbell Fusible backing on the back of it just to help give it a little bit more support. I'll place that over top of the hoop and begin to stitch again. The next stitch is going to be the placement outline for my little chick. There's no need to cut out the background at this time. Now this is the time where I get to add a little bit of flexi foam over top before I add my fabric, and that's going to add a little extra dimension to this sweet little chick. I've removed the hoop from the machine and I'm ready to trim away the excess flexi foam. I'm going to go ahead and place this back in the machine, and at the same time I'm also going to change out my thread color and make sure it's the color that I want to have with this little chick. So I'm going to change over to a golden color, and it's going to stitch the placement outline for where to place my yellow fabric. It's time to trim the excess away. So my next two colors I'm going to keep as orange because that's going to stitch out the legs and the beak. Okay, and with that, our cute little chickie is finished and she's ready to now go inside the egg. So we move on to the second half of this design, and that is finishing the egg, completing that reverse applique, and then we're sticking this cute little chick behind the window. So fun. Can't wait to do it with you. Now I've completed part A of this design, and that is doing that cute little chick in the 4x4 hoop. It's time for me to go ahead and unhoop it, and I'm just going to set it aside for now as I prepare my 5x7 hoop instead for doing the remaining portion of this design. So this little guy, just set him aside. We'll take care of her later. I'm on page 21, and I just finished the entire Chick 2 applique. I'm going to turn the page, and now I'm ready to move on to part B, and you have a couple different options. So you can do the block by block quilting, which is what we're going to do, or you can do the traditional method of hooping and not do any background quilting. Now, make note, and it has this in yellow, that if you're using block by block quilting, refer to the reverse applique with block by block quilting PDF file. The instructions are found right back here, my friends. Reverse applique with block by block quilting. It is a separate file found on your design CD, so make sure and print that out. That will be very helpful. Notice that we're doing this cute little chick, which happens to be in the top row. And it tells us that this step-by-step process is going to be tweaked just a little bit. So let's take a look. We've already completed part A. Now we're to part B. Part B is that we're going to load the quilting file. Now, how do we know which quilting file it's going to be? Well, if we turn a couple pages back, we can take a look at our little key right here. And you're going to see it says Chick 2. We are going to be pulling up KDQ 254 loops 3. That's the one that we want to pull up for the background quilting. We're also going to add on top of that the 5x7 Chick 2 part B. Okay, so this is how you know which design files to pull up. I'm going to first pull up the background quilting, and then I'm going to bring this over top, which you'll see here in just a minute. So we're going to do this part first, which is the background quilting. That's the first thing that goes into our machine. On top of that, the second part, we're going to bring in the little egg window. That goes on top of the background quilting. First up, I've got my loops. So I press that and hit set, but I don't add embroidery quite yet. Before I do that, I want to add that little egg window. So let me find it on my USB stick here. And it is the 5x7 5130. Make sure you are choosing the 5x7. Don't get confused with some of the other sizes on your CD. All right, I'm going to hit embroidery. And now I'm ready to go. However, there's a really important step here that we need to be paying really close attention to. Let's head over back to our instruction book and take a look, because we're not quite starting from step 1. If you remember from the last video, remember we have to move forward a few steps and go backwards a few steps. So deep breath. We're going to go over to the instructions and take a look and find out what exactly it wants us to do. I have my background fabric ready to go. I have the Fusible on the back, which is a great way to go. And then I also have my lining fabric, which is the same fabric as my background. I'm going to set those aside. Now I'm taking a look at page 2. Remember, this is from the special instructions on reverse applique. And I've already gone ahead and embroidered my little chick. I need to move ahead to now, how do I stitch the batting placement lines, and how do I combine the files and all the things, right? So what I'm going to do here is, it says to stitch the batting placement line from the specially digitized block embroidery file. Now, let's remember back to our last lesson, if we had combined the files, meaning we combined background quilting and we combined the open applique egg, right, the window, we combined them, we need to first do machine step 6. If we did not combine them, then you can start from step 1. However, we did combine them on the machine, so we need to start with machine step 6. That's going to take us to where we are placing our project batting, completely covering the placement line. All right, let's head to the machine. We're going to skip forward to machine step 6. Now, every machine may be a little bit different, so make sure that you know how on your machine, how to skip forward a few steps, how to go backwards a few steps. On my machine, it's as easy as just touching this button with the plus minus and the needle, and I can use my down and up arrows to go backwards and forwards. I'm also paying close attention to this number right here, because at this point, I'm at 0 out of 12 steps. I need to get to the number 6. So I'm simply going to continue touching those down arrows and take a look at that. I'm on step number 6, which is going to be the placement outline for my batting. All right, let's do this. Now I know where to place my batting. And now it's time to trim away the batting. We also have to trim away the inside of this egg, but the batting only, not the stabilizer. So I find it to be really helpful with these little snips because they have such sharp points that it really does help me just stick that right through that top layer. Again, try very carefully not to cut into the stabilizer. So what happens if you do cut into the stabilizer? I promise it is okay. We can do a simple patch of the stabilizer from behind, but you really don't have to worry about it too much if it cuts into it. And I'm just trimming right up against that outline. Now that we've done that, we're going to put this back into the machine, and notice that it tells us we are going to skip to machine step 8. Again, because we are on the combined files. If we are not combining the files and you are just doing it one at a time, you would be on machine step 3. On this one, I am going to go to machine step 8, which I believe is the very next stitch on the machine. This stitch has shown me where to place my background fabric, so I'll go ahead and place it over top of that, and then it's going to do a simple tack down stitch to hold that fabric in place. At this point, we may be tempted to just go ahead and continue stitching. However, if we're paying really close attention to the instructions, it actually is going to have us go backwards a little bit to go back to the background quilting. So it's time to do the background quilting right now. So how do I do that? Well, first off, I'm going to switch out my thread color. I don't want my background quilting to be in black. So I will go ahead and just replace that with a white thread. As outlined in the instructions, I'm going to go back to step number 5. Let's take a look. I'm going backwards, looking for those background quilting designs, and there you go. Step number 5 is ready to go. Now we just finished stitching out the background quilting on this. So what is the next step? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at page 2 on the special instructions and see what it tells us. If you take a look down here, we just finished that. We're now to one more step that we need to do before we turn back to the regular instructions. If you're wondering which different animal you are on, this particular one, we happen to be on chick 2. Again, you can go back to the page right after and be able to see what each of these are called, bunny 1, chick 2, and so forth. So pay close attention to which one you are stitching out. We are on chick 2, and so we need to skip to machine step 10 of the combined files. Once we have gone to stitch number 10, now we'll go back to the original instructions where the embroidery file is, and we pick up where we left off from before. We're going to finish that egg by moving forward to stitch 10. That's going to help us take that egg to the finish line. All right, let's do it. Stitch number 10 it is. Let's move forward. And there we go. So you can see the outline of the egg. We're going to stitch this out with black, again, just so that you can visually see it a little bit better. This is going to show us where we want to place our the lining of the egg, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and stitch that out and see what happens. And I'm going to take my lining fabric and I'm going to place it right side over top of the outline of the egg. I've removed the hoop from the machine, and it's time to now do probably the trickiest part of it all, and that is to remove all the layers, the stabilizer and the fabrics right here in the center. But when we do so, we are only cutting to 1/4 inch of the outside of that egg. So make sure and remember that. In fact, I'm going to do this just to hopefully help you visualize this a little bit better, that I am drawing on an approximate 1/4 inch from the outside line. And if you find that to be helpful, you could certainly do that at home as well, just so that you have a place to aim for with your scissors. And I'm going to take my little Kimberbell tweezers, just kind of poke that in here, and I'm able to pull it up a little bit just to help me get started with my first cut. Okay. But this has to be cut all the way through. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Again, we have sharp scissors here at the point, so we can get through all those layers and just trim right up to that little line that I had drawn previously. If you notice that you're not getting through all the layers, lift it up again and make sure that you are cutting through the stabilizer as well. That's really important. If you need to do it one layer at a time, you could certainly do that as well. And just take your time, be patient with the process, and most certainly make sure that it is on a flat surface when you're cutting this out. There we go. At this point, you'll want to take your scissors and you're going to cut perpendicular into the outside outline of the egg. And you want to cut about every approximate 1/2 inch to 1/8 of an inch, going right into that little seam allowance here. This is what's going to help us be able to pull the lining through and have a nice flat even edge around the egg. Again, just take your time. If you want to, you can also do it from behind if you find that to be more helpful. In fact, there is a second line that you definitely want to cut through. In fact, I'm going to mark it a little bit with my pen so that we can see what's happening here. You won't find it from the front, but you will find it from the back, that there is another line here. There's a second line on the outside. That outside area is not what we want to cut past, but it certainly is okay. In fact, advantageous to actually cut beyond that first line. So if you find that to be helpful, you may want to draw that over top of your threads in order to see it a little bit better. Now, as we get ready to pull this fabric through, if you're noticing areas that it doesn't have as smooth of a line going through, go turn it to the back and you can do some more cutting. But let's take a look and see what happens here. You see how this is all cut right there? All right, so I'm going to pull this lining fabric through very, very carefully. Make sure that when you do this, that you're being very gentle. You do not want to pop out this project from the hoop. Okay, so just gently pull this back. And again, if it doesn't meet up to that smooth surface area on the outside, if that doesn't come through really nice and tight, then what it means is that all you have to do is you would just push that fabric back out and go back to the drawing board one more time and just either do some snips that are a little bit closer to one another, or maybe you just, again, need to go a little bit past that inner line. But this is looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it through. And again, I'm being very, very gentle as I do this. All right, you can see that that's coming through. So at this point, I'm going to take this back over to the ironing board, and I want to press this so that it has a nice crease all the way around. However, if I were to press it while it's inside the hoop, that would be a little scary, right? Because we take the risk of popping this out. So one of the things that I recommend that you do is you need to have it up on some kind of surface that's going to help prevent it from popping out. So for example, you could roll up a towel and put it on the towel. You could place, an ironing mat underneath it that fits the same size of your hoop. I oftentimes will take the Kimberbell scissor pack and I would put another piece of cloth over top. In fact, I would do it upside down there so that you can see that it's resting on there. It just gives it a little more of a platform here. I could even take some of the Kimberbell batting that I have and just fold it up and put it also on top of there. So basically what you're doing is you're just setting a steady surface for you. Let's take a look and see what's going to fit my hoop best this time around. I'm going to pretend that this piece of batting is my towel. We'll see how far we can get it to go up onto a platform, if you will. Oh, yes. You know what? That works perfectly. Again, you see, because it creates a flat surface for this hoop without risking it popping out. All right. So with that done, I'm going to take my iron. Oh, look how nice that's laying. Let's take a look from the front. Yep, that looks really, really good. I'm very pleased with that. I'm going to give it one more quick press. Again, just be very gentle as you do so. At this point, I'm also going to take my tape and just tape it down in a few places. Again, being very gentle with that tape. I don't want to risk popping this out of the hoop. I can push it down later. I have that in place. And now I need to put my cute little chick right behind it. This little chick is ready to pop up from behind the egg. And you notice I've got plenty of fabric to work with. I like to keep it like this and then I can trim it down later afterwards. But let's go ahead and carefully move that to the front so we can see where this little gal is going to go. And you can just kind of maneuver it until you find the place that you want her to be. I'm going to hold it just like that. Carefully flip it back over. There we go. And I'm now going to tape her in place. Lightly put that tape on. And I will go ahead and remove that. Flip this back over, and now I can just press a little bit more firmly on that tape, making sure it holds in place. Now, this will go over to the embroidery machine, and I'm just about done. All I have left to do is it will do a top stitch all the way around the egg. And with that, our cute little Chicky Rocka is all done. She's adorable, right? And all of the little blocks in this mini quilt are absolutely just as cute. This was a fun one. It had its challenges, did it not? I mean, these are some techniques that many of us have probably never even been introduced to before. So I'm grateful that Kimberbell keeps us on our toes and keeps us thinking and experiencing the joy of creativity, as they like to say. It really is a fun, rewarding way to be able to spend your time doing a hobby that you absolutely love. So good luck on your mini quilts. I can't wait to see pictures. Please, please, please share with us on social media. Make sure to tag us at My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop, and you might as well tag Kimberbell Designs as well. In fact, I mean, they're the ones who make it possible, right? So let's go ahead and continue to enjoy these projects. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to help. Have a great time. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. It's really a great way to be the first to know when different videos have been posted and to share in part of a really fun and creative community. So definitely like, subscribe, and we would be grateful if you shared it with your friends as well. Have a great time sewing, everyone, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.